So in tonight's podcast, these teachings examines how lack of digital proficiency creates a new form of economics limitations in our modern environment today. Because the objective of this podcast tonight is to create an awareness on how modern systems distribute opportunity through digital platforms and how individuals without these skills become excluded and why this exclusion leads to long-term disadvantage. And it also provides a framework for recognizing the structural importance of digital capability in maintaining economics relevance. So if tonight your first time to come across this channel, you are welcome to MBRUKZ Insight. Modern systems are no longer built around physical interactions alone. Communications, employment, being it in finance, being it in education and businesses, all these operations are increasingly conducted through digital platforms. And these platforms are governed by algorithms that determine visibility, access, and prioritizations. So participation environment that we are living today requires more than basic awareness in the digital skills platforms. It requires the ability to navigate, interpret, and also adapt to the digital processes. Understanding the digital environment. Because we look into this deeply, we see that why this transition create efficiency, it also create a divide in attention. Because people who possesses digital proficiency move forward with access and flexibility, but while those who do not face limitations that are often invisible but deeply impactful. So understanding this divided attention requires examining the structural factors that connect digital capability to economic position. So the relationship between digital proficiency and economic standing is shaped by multiple interconnected factors. And these factors determine who can access opportunities, who can adapt to changes, and who remains limited within the system. So in tonight's podcast, to understand how this new form of inequality develops, it is necessary to examine the key structural reasons behind it. And number one is access limitation. The first reason is access limitation, because the modern opportunities are distributed through digital systems, job portals, application platforms, online marketplaces, and communication channels. When someone lacks the ability to navigate these systems, they are not directly excluded by policy, but they are effectively excluded by capability. Because opportunities exist within the system, but without the skills to access them, they remain out of reach. Over time, this limitation reduces participation, which directly impacts income potentials and economic mobility. Number 2, information inequality. Another critical factor is information inequality, because digital environments that we are living today contain vast and constantly updated knowledge. But access to this knowledge depends on the ability to search properly, evaluate, and apply it. So at this point, anybody with digital proficiency can identify opportunities quickly, learn new skills, and respond to changes without hesitation. But what happened to those who do not have the digital proficiency? So those without it rely on limited or outdated source of information. So if you look deeply, you understand that this is enough to create a gap where one group advances through informed decisions and while other remains restricted by lack of insight. So this is why lack of digital proficiency is a new poverty line in our environment today. Number 3, I would like to highlight in tonight's podcast is what I call algorithmic visibility. A deeper structural issue is algorithmic visibility, because digital platforms are designed to prioritize contents and profiles that aligns with algorithmic patterns. So individuals who understand how this system functions can position themselves to be visible, increasing their chances of being selected or recognized. And those who lack this understanding remain invisible within the system. So this invisibility reduces access to opportunities regardless of their actual ability or potential. Is another important factor I would like to highlight: skill irrelevance. Skill irrelevance is another important reason, because as industries evolve, traditional skills are increasingly integrated with digital tools. You know that tasks that were once performed manually now requires interaction with softwares, platforms, or automated systems. So anybody who cannot adapt their skills to include digital competence, there is tendency for that person to lose relevance in the labor market. So this reduces the ability to compete and limit long-term stability. That leads me to number 5, platform exclusion. Another layer is platform exclusion. Many moving incomes opportunities, freelancing, remote jobs, and digital services and online businesses, all this exists entirely within digital ecosystems. None of them is manual. So participation on these platforms requires understanding on how to operate properly within the platforms. So without this knowledge, people are excluded from some of the fastest growing areas of economy, thereby limiting their earning potentials. So this is why I titled tonight's podcast that lack of digital proficiency is the new poverty line. So when you lack this, you are engaging into your poverty line, because the world we are living today, the system we are integrating in our daily basis today is relying on digital base. And that leads me to number 6, automation vulnerability. Another contributing factor is automation vulnerability, because roles that requires minimal digital interactions are more likely to be replaced by automated systems in our time today. So anybody without digital skills are often concentrated in these roles, making them more exposed to jobs displacement. Without the ability to transact properly with these systems, without the ability to transition into digital integrated roles, this vulnerability increase over time. Another important aspect is communication barriers, because professional communication has largely shifted to digital channels, emails, visuals meetings, collaborative tools. Individuals who lack proficiency in these areas may struggle to engage effectively, leading to missed opportunities and reduced professional growth. Because communication is no longer just about language, it is about the medium through which it is delivered. And that leads me to number 8, learning constraints. Another structural limitation is learning constraint, because education and skills development are increasingly delivered through digital platforms. Online courses, tutorials, and visual training provide continuous learning opportunities in our time today. So without digital proficiency, access to these resources is limited for you, making it difficult to update skills and remain competitive in the market. And that leads me to what I call financial exclusion. Another critical factor is financial exclusion. Banking, payment, and financial management are rapidly moving towards digital systems. So anybody who cannot navigate these systems is liable to face limitations and accessing services, managing transactions, and benefiting from financial tools digitally. So this restricts the ability to participate fully, in economics activities. And number 10, network limitation. Another layer is network limitation. Digital platforms allow people to connect globally, right? That's good. Okay. Now, creating opportunities for collaborations and growth, very important. But those who understand how to build and maintain this network gain access to resources and information. Now, without digital proficiency as a human that you are in today's market, in today's world, in today's digital system we all operate in, this connection remains limited to you, reducing exposure to opportunities. So this is why I titled tonight's podcast, "The lack of digital proficiency is your next line of poverty." Number 11, adaptability constraint. Another essential factor is adaptability constraint, because as system evolves, the ability to learn and adjust become critical. because digital proficiency enables individuals to adapt new tools, and environments as well, because without it, change becomes a barrier rather than an opportunity, then widening the gap between those who can evolve into it and those who cannot. And that leads me to number 12, structural disadvantage. The final reason is structural disadvantage, because all these factors combine to create a system where people without digital proficiency are consistently positioned at a disadvantage. This is not due to lack of effort, but it's due to lack of access and capability within the system, because over time this disadvantage becomes self-reinforcing, making it increasingly difficult to move upward, most especially to the people in the local areas. So the concept of the algorithmic views a shift in how inequality is formed. So it is no longer defined only by what individuals or people possesses, but by what they can access and navigate. Because digital proficiency has become a fundamental requirement for participation in modern systems that we are operating today in our world. So those who develop it gain access to opportunities, while those who do not face increasing limitations. So recognizing this shift is essential, because it changes how people must prepare, learn, and position themselves in a rapid evolving world that we are living today. Because in a system controlled by algorithms, the greatest disadvantage is not lack of effort, it is lack of access. If tonight is your first time to come across this channel, you are welcome to MBRUKZ Insight. Here in our night podcast, we talk about human development.